In all honesty, Hugh Beaumont detested his more than anyone else. Eugene was the name of Hugh Beaumont's son. On the 16th of February, 1909, Hugh Beaumont was born in Eudora, Kansas. As he was growing up in a humble environment in the Midwest, he was exposed to a variety of moral and spiritual principles that would serve as a foundation for him throughout his entire life, both in his personal and professional endeavors. His formative years were influenced by the Midwest of the United States, and his subsequent relocation to California opened his eyes to a wider world that encompassed not just the entertainment industry, but also theological endeavors throughout his formative years. First, Bowman received his undergraduate degree from the University of Chattanooga. Subsequently, he transferred to the University of Southern California, where he completed his master's degree in theology. One of the things that set him apart from many of his peers in Hollywood was his spiritual background. Despite the fact that he was seeking a career in acting, he never deviated from his profession as a clergyman. He frequently filled in at pulpits across Southern California when he was not on location, and his faith served as a rich source of inspiration that suffused many of his performances, particularly that of Ward Clever, with a calm dignity, a moral compass, and a sincerity that resonated with viewers of all ages and generations. During the 1940s, Hugh began his career as an actor by playing in a series of low-budget films and serials. He was frequently cast in roles that were either rough or morally uncompromising. During his early career, he became known for his work in the film noir genre, most notably for his role as private investigator Michael Shane in a number of films. The combination of his tall stature, steady voice, and calm manner made him a dependable character actor throughout this time period. He was able to effortlessly segue between BEM cinema thrillers, westerns, and early television, so constructing a broad portfolio that would eventually result in his most enduring performance. Hugh Beaumont became a household name in 1957 when he was cast in the role of Ward Clever on the television show Leave It to Beaver. The show, which was centered around the day-to-day adventures of the Cleaver family, was well received by listeners in the United States during the conservative years that followed World War II. Beaumont, in his role as Ward, portrayed the archetypal father of the 1950s. He was forceful, but still showing compassion for his children. His character helped his sons, Wally and the Beaver, by providing them with kind guidance and by imparting moral teachings in a manner that was not harsh, but rather via warmth and patience. The connection that he shared with his co-star Barbara, Billingsley, who played his on-screen wife June, contributed to the formation of one of the most cherished and romanticized families in the history of television. Despite the fact that the series received a very low level of acceptance at first, it eventually became a classic thanks to reruns, and Beaumont's role is widely regarded as the epitome of what it means to be a perfect father on film. Behind the scenes, Beaumont was passionately committed to ensuring that the surrounding environment on set was one that was professional and respectful. He frequently assisted the young actors with their lines and encouraged them to take their studies seriously. He showed a personal interest in the well-being and education of the child players. As a result of his fatherly presence that stretched beyond the screen and into the lives of those he worked with, he garnered respect and adoration from many in the profession. Even after the conclusion of Leave It to Beaver in 1963, Beaumont continued to work in the film and television industries, albeit on a less regular basis. He made appearances as a guest on a number of well-known television programs, including Petticoat Junction, Manx, and The Virginia. Not only did he pursue a career in performing, but he also tried his hand at writing and directing, putting his intelligence and imagination to use in ventures that were behind the camera. In the late 1960s, he started to reduce his involvement in the entertainment industry in order to devote more time to his personal life and spiritual pursuits. It was in Minnesota that he began his career as a tree farmer, where he found the tranquility and simplicity that country life had to offer. Hugh Beaumont's talents stretched far beyond his on-screen performances, which was a striking contrast to the hectic pace of Hollywood. It was throughout his career that he established himself not just as an actor, but also as a talented writer, demonstrating a remarkable range that he displayed throughout his career. Beaumont was able to demonstrate his ability to construct captivating narratives that were specifically adapted for the small screen during the golden age of television by selling a number of television screenplays over the course of his career. It was not just television that he wrote for. Additionally, he was a writer of radio scripts, which was a medium that required snappy dialogue and vivid storytelling in order to engage audiences that relied entirely on audio. The literary impact of Beaumont expanded beyond the realm of broadcast media and into the realm of print, where he published short tales to a variety of popular periodicals during that time period. These writings further solidified his creative legacy by demonstrating his profound awareness of narrative and character development. These are talents that undoubtedly complemented his acting career, but also solidified his reputation. In the course of the evolution of the entertainment industry and the shifts in opportunities, Beaumont progressively began to separate himself from acting. He began on a new and unexpected enterprise, far removed from the glare of Hollywood, which was Christmas tree farming. He purchased and nurtured a farm in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, where he grew Christmas trees. He was looking for a more peaceful and grounded way of life. He completely devoted his time and energy to cultivating and tending to Christmas trees. This second vocation not only gave him the opportunity to connect with the natural world, but it also provided a tranquil alternative to the hectic demands of the entertainment industry. It is possible that the seasonal nature of Christmas tree farming provided Beaumont with a rhythm and regularity that was distinct from the unpredictability of performing jobs. This difference may have been a reflection of his desire for stability and simplicity in his later years. Unfortunately, Beaumont's productive life was cut short by health problems when he suffered a stroke in 1970 that rendered him unable to fully participate in activities. Because of this critical medical occurrence, which marked a turning point, he was forced to reassess his commitments to his professional pursuits. When Beaumont finally decided to officially retire from acting in 1972, he had spent years juggling a number of different creative endeavors in addition to his new farming business. Following decades of commitment to the arts and his own personal endeavors, his retirement not only marked the conclusion of a phase in his multifarious career, but also provided him with the opportunity to take a well-deserved break. Even though Beaumont had removed himself from the public glare, he continued to have a close attachment to the character that brought him the most fame. A reunion of cast members from the television show Leave It to Beaver was held in 1980, and he made a special appearance at the event. The reunion was organized by a local television station in Los Angeles. This reunion was a poignant acknowledgement to the show's ongoing success and the revered place that Beaumont held in the history of television. It provided fans and colleagues alike with the opportunity to appreciate his accomplishments for a final time. On a more personal level, Beaumont's private life was as important and played a vital role in shaping large portions of his personality. The wedding that took place on April 13, 1941, was conducted at the Hollywood Congregational Church, and it was attended by the actress Katherine Adams Nahon. Their union was one that was founded on the fact that they had experienced similar things inside the entertainment industry. It lasted for more than 3 decades, which is a significant amount of time in an industry that is notorious for having short-term partnerships. They co-parented 3 children, a girl named Christy, 2 sons named Hunter and Mark, and a daughter named Christy. Despite the fact that they kept their family life relatively private, it was obvious that Beaumont placed a high value on it and that it served as a basis for him beyond his professional ambitions. On the other hand, Hugh Beaumont and Katherine Adams divorced in 1974, signaling the end of their long-term partnership. This occurred after they had been married for about 33 years. Through his offspring, particularly his eldest son, Hunter Beaumont, Beaumont's heritage was carried on for several generations. Hunter carved out his own route away from the spotlight. of Hollywood, becoming a psychotherapist and author in the process. His contributions to the fields of mental health and literature are evidence of the intellectual and creative milieu that it is likely that he was exposed to during his childhood. Hunter spent a significant portion of his life in Germany, where he made significant contributions to the area of psychotherapy and continued to do so until his death in 2023. That Hugh Beaumont's influence stretched beyond his immediate career in acting and writing is reflected in this particular detail, which not only emphasizes the global presence of the Beaumont family, but also reflects the varied ways in which Hugh Beaumont's influence expanded. The audience may remember Hugh Beaumont as the calm, patient, and considerate father figure Ward Clever on the classic television series Leave It to Beaver, which aired in the 1950s. However, behind the scenes, Hugh Beaumont had personal difficulties that were in stark contrast to his on-screen manner. During his time on the program, he had a deep-seated hate toward his co-star Tony Dow, who played the role of Wally Clever, his fictitious son. This was one of the most startling elements of his time on the show, and it was uncommonly discussed. In spite of the fact that the show depicted a picture-perfect American family, filled with touching father-son moments and profound teachings about life, the connection that existed between Beaumont and Dow outside of the camera was anything but beautiful. Hugh Beaumont was a man who had entered the world of Hollywood somewhat reluctantly, motivated more by necessity than desire. He was a character actor who had received training in classical acting and was strongly principled. Before he became famous on television, he had been a preacher in the Methodist Church and had studied theology. In his work life, as well as in his personal life, he was a firm believer in order, respect, and discipline. He had the expectation that his co-stars, regardless of their age, would approach their work with the same amount of passion and sense of responsibility that he did. Initially, Beaumont was accepting of Tony Dow's decision to join the group at the age of 12, despite the fact that Dow had no previous experience in the acting industry. However, he quickly became upset with what he believed to be Dow's lack of discipline and polish. The many errors, youthful energy, and restlessness that Dow displayed behind the scenes were a source of frustration for Beaumont, who thought that they broke the flow of the program and undermined the professionalism that he was attempting to maintain. Over the course of the series, reportedly, Beaumont's frustrations became even more intense. He believed that Tony Dow was the weak link in a cast that was otherwise dedicated to maintaining the wholesome and emotional tone that had made Leave It to Beaver such a successful show. In spite of the fact that Dow's reputation among fans was growing and that he had a natural connection with Jerry Matz, Beaver Beaumont apparently regarded him as an undisciplined and, at times, egotistical young actor who did not show the appropriate amount of respect to the elder cast members or production staff. A number of individuals with knowledge of the situation have even stated that Beaumont quietly advocated for Dow to be removed, although this plan was never implemented. The age and personality disparities that existed between the two also contributed to the escalation of tensions. On the other hand, Beaumont was a traditionalist who held firm beliefs regarding the moral obligations of television and the behavior of families. On the other hand, Dow was a child who was born between the late 1950s and early 1960s, a period that was characterized by shifting social standards, the rebellion of young people, and a weakening of authority structures. Beaumont frequently mistook Dow's easygoing demeanor and lack of experience for a lack of devotion or laziness, despite the fact that Dow was not in any way rude. The gap between them, both emotionally and philosophically, grew wider as a result of their disagreements. Despite the fact that Beaumont took his duty as a father figure seriously, even to the point of offset, the anger that he felt against Dow only increased when Dow failed to meet his personal standards. Furthermore, there were rumors that Dow, as he grew older and gained more self-assurance, occasionally questioned the orders that were given to him or made comments regarding his personality. However, Beaumont saw this to be an instance of exceeding boundaries, despite the fact that other people might have taken it as a sign of maturity or initiative. When Beaumont saw these instances, he saw them as emblematic of a larger cultural deterioration in respect for elders and authority. The fact that a youngster would express himself in such a manner in the presence of an experienced actor was unbearable to Beaumont. They appeared to have a harmonic relationship to the general public, which is a credit to the expertise of both actors. On the other hand, it was tense in private. People who were close to the production have noticed Beaumont's evident irritation during rehearsals and occasional contacts with Dow. Despite the fact that Beaumont kept a respectful front and never allowed his personal feelings to interfere overtly with his performance, many who were close to the production have recalled his behavior. Some people even claim that Beaumont's inability to connect with Dow was a contributing factor in his frustration with Leave It to Beaver as a whole, also known as a show that he occasionally thought limited his artistic possibilities. According to reports, Hugh Beaumont was relieved to put the part and his rocky relationship with Tony Dow behind him by the time the 6th season of the show came to a close. When he did speak about Dow in interviews, he did so with notably less warmth than when he spoke of other cast members. However, when he did speak of Dow in public, he maintained a cordial demeanor when recounting his time spent on Leave It to Beaver. Among all of his professional relationships, the one that he found to be the most challenging, and possibly even the one that he despised the most, was the one he had with Tony Dow. This was clearly apparent to those who knew him the best. Over the course of the show's final years, Dow and other cast members, especially Jerry Matz, frequently expressed their fondness for their time spent working on the show. It appeared as though Dow was either uninformed of or unconcerned by Beaumont's hostility, or perhaps he made the conscious decision to rise above it. However, the presence of Tony Dow caused Beaumont, who otherwise exemplified the epitome of composed parenting, to experience a profound and long-lasting irritation. This frustration was motivated by the fact that it was in direct opposition to the idealized depiction of family togetherness that the world witnessed on their television screens on a weekly basis. Hugh Beaumont, who was 72 years old at the time of his death, suffered a heart attack on May 14, 1982, while making a visit to his son Hunter in Munich, which was located in West Germany. Although he was most known for his role as Ward Clever on the long-running television series Leave It to Beaver, his death marked the conclusion of a multifaceted life that encompassed a great deal more than just that. In addition to being a loss for the entertainment industry, the passing of Beaumont was also a loss for those who knew him in the many other capacities in which he served throughout his life. There was more to Hugh Beaumont than just his work in television. In addition to this, he was a man of profound faith and conviction. Despite the fact that his acting career was flourishing, Beaumont continued to study theology and retain his religious credentials. He was a credentialed Methodist preacher to begin with. He continued to be actively involved in religious life and was known to officiate weddings, deliver eulogies, and lead burial services for members of his family, friends, and community. Despite the fact that he did not serve as a pastor on a full-time basis, it was his gentle attitude, moral compass, and commanding presence that made him particularly well-suited for these positions. Many of the people who attended these ceremonies remarked on the sincerity and emotional depth that he brought to them. The sympathetic aspect that so many people connected with his persona on television was further demonstrated by the fact that Beaumont considered these actions not as performances, but rather as chances to provide comfort, counsel, and spiritual leadership. Beaumont was a man of many abilities, including music in addition to his religious activities. He included music among his talents. He had a considerable amount of success as a jazz drummer prior to his rise to popularity on television, and he continued to pursue this interest throughout his entire life. He frequently participated in impromptu jam sessions with musicians and played with small jazz ensembles in the area. He also enjoyed playing with other musicians. In addition to having a profound awareness for rhythm and melody, Beaumont's drumming, was renowned for being technically proficient as well as emotionally expressive and passionate. Beaumont discovered that music provided him with a creative outlet that brought him a great deal of satisfaction, whether or not he was performing in small club settings or simply drumming with friends for fun. A part of him that very few people, who were lovers of his acting profession, ever saw, was revealed by his musical talent, which gave another layer to his already complicated nature. When Hugh Beaumont was away from the cameras and the lights of the studio, he found peace in the natural world. Having a passion for the great outdoors, he devoted a significant portion of his spare time to discovering the natural world. One of his favorite things to do was go fishing, and he would frequently go on extended journeys to distant lakes and rivers, sometimes with his buddies and other times by himself with his thoughts. Camping and hiking were two of his favorite activities, and he cherished the tranquility and simplicity that came with being surrounded by natural features such as forests, mountains, or streams. Through these outings into the countryside, he was able to detach himself from the constraints of Hollywood and re-establish a connection with the more reflective and quieter aspects of his personality. Beaumont's friends and family frequently remarked on his profound reverence for the natural world and his conviction that spending time in the great outdoors was essential for the development of the soul. Beaumont was well known among his colleagues for his caustic and frequently razor-sharp sense of humor, despite the fact that he had a solemn image of being the prototypical television father of the 1950s. When he was working on the set of Leave It to Beaver, he constantly entertained his fellow cast members by telling humorous anecdotes, engaging in playful taunting, and regularly delivering puns and jokes. Later on, members of the cast, such as Jerry Matz and Tony Dow, recounted how Beaumont would maintain a light-hearted atmosphere throughout the lengthy days of filming. He would frequently utilize his wit to diffuse intense situations or simply to make someone's day more enjoyable. The kind of comedy that lingered in the air and made people laugh long after the punchline had dropped was the kind of humor that he had. His personality was subtle and intellectual. Not only was it a fundamental component of who he was, but it was also a quality that contributed to the formation of the cast and the development of the familial dynamic that audiences responded to so positively on screen. Throughout his life, Hugh Beaumont exhibited a wealth of humanity, complexity, and depth. He was a man of sincerity, generosity, and intelligence in all he did, whether he was ministering to a family that was going through a difficult time, playing the drums in a jazz club that was filled with smoke, trekking a mountain trail, or sharing a joke on a television set. Not only does his legacy continue on through the reruns of Leave It to Beaver, but it also lives on in the people whose lives he touched and the example he established as a man of integrity, talent, and compassion.